I was prying real hard to try to get the actual tire in, and I heard air escaping. So I obviously punctured the brand new tube. Hey, how you doing? Duff here. What you see before you is my deflated Gotway monster. A couple weeks ago I lost tire pressure doing the Dunkin' Donuts ride, and yeah, I'm going to try to put a new tube in it today. Thought it was interesting when I came over here. I was just for the hell of it, just squeezing the tire there. Didn't hear anything, but when I do it right at the valve stem, I don't know if you can hear that, but you can hear the air coming in and out. So I have a feeling that this stem just left loose. I don't think anything punctured my tire. I think the tube at the valve stem might have just come apart for some reason. So that's my premise. So as far as tools that I have at this point, I have an assortment of screwdrivers. These are all magnetic tipped screwdrivers, even though I think these low-grade screws that they use in the Gotway wheels, at least the older ones, they are not magnetic. They will not stick to a magnet. I have a replacement tube. I bought this on eBay. It is a 275 by 17 tube. And you might say, hey, this is a 22-inch wheel. Why do you have a 17-inch tube? Well, the actual inner diameter, I guess, is 17 inches, and that's the size tube that you use. And then finally, I have one more tool. Who knows? I might need more tools, of course, but one last tool is my alcoholic beverage. Feel free to substitute beer, whiskey, vodka, whatever, but this will work for me because I'm not expecting this to be fun. So, okay, so first thing I have to do, obviously, is take the sides off. A bunch of screws around here. See how easily they. It's very important with these crappy screws that you get a screwdriver that fits the Phillips head securely. You don't want it to be able to spin in there at all, because it's very easy to round out these screws because they are low quality. Let me get all these screws out, and I'll be back in a jiff. So now I'm not 100% sure yet, but the way it looks to me, it looks like I actually don't need to remove the pedals to get these sides completely off. If I do, obviously I will, but it looks like I actually should be able to do it without taking those pedals off, so I guess we'll find out. The only other time I've ripped a wheel totally apart was when I replaced the shell on my Gotway M Super, and the pedals did have to come off that shell design, but I'm kind of thinking that maybe with the Monster I do not, so let's find out. And don't forget, there's some hidden screws here underneath the leg pad. There's 3 screws hidden under here, so we're going to need to get those as well. Alright, all those screws should be backed out far enough. Let's see if this comes off like I hope. Oops. I thought I would be smart and leave these screws in the holes, but I think as I pull it off, they're all going to propel themselves outward and probably fall into the carpet and be really hard to find, so I'm going to remove all the screws. And these little pliers that or not pliers, these little tweezers that I use for 3D printing are a pretty good, maybe they're a pretty good way to get these out. Alright, by my count there are 13 screws for the side panel. So I'm going to set those aside in a spot where I will not knock them on the floor. And let's see if this will pop off now. Maybe. Of course, you have the tape on the battery, which always makes this fun the first time, and it's better if you can see everything. All right. Just slow and steady pressure there. I didn't actually watch a teardown video for the Monster, because I think Ian might have done one at some point. Okay, this is the non-system board side. So I may have to do that at some point. You know, cheat and just take a look at what the proper order is to do this in. But okay, so the battery's here. Battery's going to need to come off. It's going to need to be disconnected, so we're going to do that right now. It's a total of 3 connections for the battery, and they're keyed so you can't mess them up. Alright, so now we have, there's a number of screws around the perimeter here, and then you have these screws that connect to the pedal hanger. So I'm going to take the perimeter ones off next. Alright, so the screws that are up here in the handle section, they're seated very deep. So you're just trying to make sure that you have a nice firm connection with your screwdriver. And you're just kind of going by feel. You definitely don't want to be, like I said earlier, you don't want to be feeling that you're turning these out, as in breaking them or stripping them. So there's a couple flat-headed screws, short flat ones that connect the trim panels here. So those are going to be different than the ones that are down in these channels. That needs to come off or not. Alright, so now I'm going to, let's see. It's weird that there's nothing down here that holds it on other than these pedal hanger screws, it looks like. Alright, so I'm going to take these out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these. And I'm going to try to fish out the ones that I have down the channel as well with my tweezers. Alright, those are not going to fish out very easily, so hopefully when I just flip it over, they will drop out. Alright, so I have all these pedal hanger screws out. I believe I have everything up here loose. So let's see. Oh, there we go. I'm just curious what kind of movement we have now. Bottom. Having these pedals here is kind of annoying. I think I'm just going to take them out. Yeah, this is easy enough to do, so just have to remove a grub screw from either side, pop the pedal rod out, and they're off. So I just think it'll be simpler having these out of my way. And then just one thing to keep in mind when you pop this out is there's 2 washers in here that you need to make sure you don't lose along the way. They're like spacers. So just get something in there and tap it out. And there goes the other spacer. Don't lose them. Keep all your pedal stuff together somewhere. Alright, I think if I remember when I did my M Super stuff, I think that I need to go in and undo screws on the other side in order for this side of the shell to come loose, because I think they kind of go both directions. So let me flip it over and repeat the process. Exact same thing I did on this side, I'm going to do on the other side, except the system board is on that side. Alright, got the small cover off, exposing the system board. So now we got to take off all the same screws we did on the other side. Alright, so I was eyeballing this, and I was starting to take off all of the same screws on the other side, and I realized that that's not really necessary. You just need access from one side. So I flipped it back over after getting the screws that hold it from the underside released. I think all I got to do is feed these cables through here. This one is actually taped down. Feed these through, take that off, and voila, there you go. I have access to the tire. Super cool. But now I get to take it off. Okay, so the valve stem itself has 2 nuts on it to, I guess, lock it in the upright position, probably to prevent what happened from happening, you know, to keep the valve stem from moving around. This is still going to be very interesting. Yeah, okay, so when I look at the side of the tire, it does actually say 275 by 17. So, despite it being a 22-inch wheel. Alright, so let me get this other nut off. Nut is off. Now it's time to get some tire irons. Alright, so after fighting tremendously to get the tire changed on my Mini Pro, on Cindy's Mini Pro, where I put the bigger tires on, after that I went out and bought some industrial tire irons, which I hope is going to make this a lot easier. I'll put the link in the description below. Depending on how well it works, you might want to set for yourself. Alright, so I have a little section off here, but now I need to continue around the tire. So I had 3 of them in, so I took out the middle one, and I'm going to try to pop the next section up. Okay, so basically what I'm doing, I have 3 tools. I popped it with 2 close together, and what I'm doing is I am just slowly working my way around, leaving this one here, and then I am popping, I'm moving the one that's to the middle to the outside just to get a little bit more off, and then a little bit more off, and I just keep sliding this over. So now I'm at the point, it should be a couple more yanks, and this should pop. Just pry it, move it over a little bit. This is I highly recommend getting a good set of tools like this. When I was doing it on the Monster Mini Pro, I was using like screwdrivers and stuff, and that just was miserable, and I wound up paying someone at a bike shop to put that tire on. And if you go to a bike shop, you'll find out that they have tools very similar to this. Alright. Okay. This side is off the rim. Now I gotta try to get the tube out. Okay, at this point, take a sip of your alcoholic beverage. You deserve it. Alright, let's continue. Okay, so the goal here is to fish out the old tube. Valve stem push through. This both getting the valve stem out and getting it in. The valve stem seated correctly without taking the tire all the way off. Alright, there it is. Alright. Well, culprit found. You can see here, maybe it just let loose at the valve stem. That's unfortunate. Alright, so we need to get this new one in here. try to get it in a nice neat way. So I'm kind of thinking to get it in, leaving it totally deflated like this is my best bet to get it in, and then maybe just partially inflate it once I get it inside the tire, and just try to use my fingers to get it seated well. Let's go with that plan. Okay. I got the valve in, got it started. So got that started. I'll tighten that up when I'm done getting this in. But yeah, that's probably the most challenging part. Hopefully everything else just slides in. Alright, so what I've done at this point is I wedged the tube in best as I could, and I'm kind of reversing what I did with the tire irons. Just working my way back around. Each pry point a couple inches further in than the last. And I put like 8 pounds of pressure in the tube, just so I have some pressure in there. Seems like it's going okay. Alright, well, that was a fail. As I was coming around here at the spot where there's the most tension in the tire, I was prying real hard to try to get the actual tire in, and I heard air escaping. So I obviously punctured the brand new tube doing this. So I got to order a new tube, another one. And maybe I'll do some research online to see if it is better to take the tire all the way off to do this, because that's really frustrating. Hey, Duff here. It is now a couple days later, several days later, and I have a new tube. My second new tube, and I actually have a third new tube on the chair, but hopefully it will not come to that. I am now going to be once again trying to install the tube without damaging it. As far as things I plan to do different this time, I have some tire levers that I might try to use as opposed to just using my spoons, because I think this has less of a chance of catching the rubber and pinching it. And I have over on the corner, or over on the shelves over there, I have some soapy water, so I'm also going to try to kind of make this a little slippery, so maybe I can work it around better, because I didn't use any kind of lubricant last time, and it definitely did not help. So let me get the process started, and I'll be back in a bit. Alright, so like last time, I'm going to try to get the valve part installed first. I'm torn if I should try to inflate this first so it gets a general shape and then let some air out, or if I should just try to install it flat. Because the problem with installing it flat is it wants to just it doesn't want to lay in the channel right. So I think I'm going to try to put a little bit of air in it. Okay, so my awesome Ryobi portable inflator I have set to a very low number, 5 psi. So let's see what happens. Okay, it's actually more inflated than I thought it would be. Okay, I think I need to have it a little bit less inflated than that. Okay, so I let almost all that air out, but now I have a general shape to my tube, which hopefully is good. Alright. I have the valve stem started. I'm going to put the nut on finger tight. And then go from there. Alright, so far I have it stuffed in about halfway through. I'm going to try to get it stuffed in all the way and then see what I can do to make sure that it stays down around the wheel as opposed to coming up around the edge of the tire. Okay, so I now have the tube pushed in. So I'm moving my fingers around, trying to just make sure that it is firmly down on the wheel, not in the spot where it could get pinched by tire levers. Feels pretty good. I think actually inflating it, because when I tried this the first time, I did not inflate the inner tube at all prior to doing this, and I think it actually was somewhat helpful to inflate this first. Alright, so now we try to put the tire back on. Okay, I'm using a plastic tire lever this time. So, much less likely to damage. But I need to try to hold my progress here, so I'm just not seating it here and then having it come out behind it like it just did there. The whole thing just popped off. It's funny, since I had the problem, I watched a video of Matthias doing this on his M Super, and it seemed way easier. I mean, he was able to like seat the whole thing with just his hands, like 2/3 of the way around, and then just use a tire lever at the very last part, and seemed like he had a lot more flexibility to work with there. Although I did message him, and he said that when he had all that work that he did on his MSX, and he swapped out the motor, he said changing the tire on that was incredibly difficult. So made me feel a little bit better, but still need to figure out a way to get this done. Alright, I have it about halfway on. I'm just going around with the tire lever and popping it on a little bit at a time and holding behind it with my hand. Hard part of this at all yet, so keep going. Alright, about maybe a third to go. I mean, to be honest, I'm doing something similar to what I was doing with the tire levers, but this time, or with those metal ones. But this time I'm using these smaller tools, and I believe I have the tube seated better than it was last time. So I have this much to get on yet. I think the metal levers are going to have to come out at some point, though. Cindy's in here helping me lubricate, but you don't have to lube up here though, too.
Underneath. Because you're going to get in here and it's just going to slide. I'm getting, look, right. I got the edge. Just give me some time. I'm trying to get also in here. Alright, I'm going to hang in here. You want me to hold one side?
Alright, so for this last part, I've switched back to the higher leverage tools. But at this point, we only have like maybe, what, 8 inches to get in?
6 maybe? This might be it. Oh!
It's in.
Alright, now you can tighten it up, then you can blow it up, and then we can see. Look at that. Feels good. See?
I'm going to do this to kind of try to seat the tube.
Yeah, because if it's twisted or anything, it's looks good.
Alright.
I didn't hear a psh, but you don't have any air.
I have very minimal air in it, but
enough that it would psh,
I'm going to put air in it now and we won't listen. Alright guys, so I want to put the pump on here and put some air in it just to make sure I don't hear anything leaking. For my right angle valve, this is weird. You would think that with a wheel as big as a monster it would be easy to get something on the valve stem, but it really is not. You have very minimal clearance. So you need like I need a right angle air fitting, which I don't have, unfortunately. I have it on my compressor outside, but I do not have one here. Okay, so I'm going to just do something conservative and see if I can get 10 pounds in it. Okay, do not hear any leaks, that is good. So, I need to get both of the nuts back on this, on the fill valve and secure it, and then maybe put some more air in. In my my downtime, since I've been waiting for the tube, I was thinking more about the way that the base of that valve stem looked. And I'm still confident that that was the cause of the the flat, but I don't know that it was quite as severe as what I showed on the camera, because probably once it went flat and it was just basically riding on the rim, I bet it did more damage to that valve stem area. So yeah, I don't think it failed quite as completely as it seemed to, but I am sure that's where the problem lays or lied. Alright, so I'm just going to tighten this first nut up and then add the second one and put some more air in. Okay, I have my pump set at 35 psi. Let's see what happens. Actually, I just changed it to 30 psi. Because I'm looking at the side of the tire and it looks like it talks about 32 psi being the max on the tire, which surprises me, but it is more like a car tire or a motorcycle tire. Alright, we have don't hear any leaking. Pressure's holding steady. That's why I like this inflator so much. You have a digital readout of your pressure. I think we're good here, guys. Okay, so yeah, it seems good to me. Now we get to test my memory. Let's see if I can put it back together. Alright, so the main thing to pay attention to is you need to make sure that you have these fished through the case, your battery connectors. And then secondary is trying to get these trim pieces lined back up again, which should be fun. Let's see if we can get this on at least. Alright. Okay, it's sitting on there. I need to fish these wires through and then see if I can get all these holes lined up so I can start putting a couple screws in. So I finally figured out what these are for. It's funny, these are the spots where Ian mounted his additional charges for his Monster for his 1,000-mile ride. There's just one screw that holds them on, but then this allows you more access to grab the cables. You get your finger in there and pull them through and secure them. On this far side that I'm working on here, there is actually a piece of tape that you can use to hold it in place. A lot of holes to line up, a whole lot of holes. It's sitting there pretty good though. Okay, I have these two pulled through and here's my third. Now I just need to do some fiddling to get the two sides to line up well, and then I'll probably put the pedal hanger screws in first. Okay, just put two of the pedal hanger screws back in just to hold it in place. I think I'm going to try to drop a couple of the screws that hold the two halves together in, just to stabilize it a little bit, and then let's see what happens next. As I'm tightening these, I'm tightening them, but I'm not cranking on them. Again, I mentioned very early on in this process that they are not high quality screws that are used, so it's easy to strip them out. So I'm tightening them, but I'm not going nuts. The pedal hanger screws, on the other hand, these are actually high quality screws. Look like they're decent stainless screws, and because they anchor the pedal hanger to the case, these I do make sure to tighten as much as I can. Alright, I have all the screws back in on this side, so I think I want to pop the battery in. I'll pop the battery in and maybe try to turn it on while we're at this point. Alright, so battery back in. But which way does battery go? Because doesn't look like I would have enough room if I go that way. Or I shouldn't say enough room, enough cable length. If I go this way, I need more cable length this way. So this and this will reach over here easily. this looks like this would be the top. Alright, I need to flip it over if I can and see if there's some extra slack in the cable I'm not seeing. Okay, it seems like I clearly have a lot more slack. What was happening was the pack on this side was hanging out, so it was pulling all the slack with it. So if I feed this back through, I should have the slack that I need. I don't want to mess with this pristine Gotway cable management now, right? Okay, so I think that's okay. So while I have it on this side, I'm going to put in, there's a couple screws, case screws here that I can put in. So let me do that. Look how clean this sucker is. It probably has somewhere around 1,000 miles on it. But yeah, looks very, very pristine. Alright, so I think what I want to do is, just to keep this from falling out, I'm gonna put the side cover on. I think I've got all the screws back in. I'm just gonna put, maybe 4 screws in just to hold it in place, so I can flip it over, hopefully get the other battery connected, and then turn it on and make sure everything is working as expected. Okay, so after changing that battery position around, I have significantly more slack over here. So let's put this battery back in. No sparks, that's nice. Always appreciate not having sparks. There are little channels here that you can try to route the wires through. You just want to make sure that you're not pinching. You want to make sure that all the screw hole locations are unobstructed for when you put the side back on. Okay, so for the same reason, I have everything hooked up. I'm going to just put the other side on and just put a few screws in, and then we'll try to turn it on. Oops. I almost forgot to put these little access covers back on. Alright guys, you have this cover on somewhat. This is an exciting moment. We're going to try to turn it on and hope that it... Oh, I didn't mean to do it quite yet, but I hit the button. Okay. We have... appears to live. It's balancing. The lights work. The case doesn't look any worse than it did before. I think we're in good shape. Okay, let me put these other screws in. Alright, got all the screws back in. All that is left is to put the pedals back on. Keeping in mind with the M Super, the way that these pedals are designed to go on is the fatter portion down here is designed to be towards the back. Although you can switch them around. I did switch them around once as an experiment, but I found that I preferred them the way they are from the factory. So I'm just going to reinstall these pedals. Did I tell you? The charger on my brand new backfire is bad, by the way. Evidently, I'm not quite sure how this happens, but a very large portion of them do not seem to work on the American power grid. So good news is Backfire is sending me a replacement. Hopefully I'll have it within a few days. Alright, well that's a little annoying. Of course, it wouldn't be one of my videos if there wasn't a dumb screw up. But I noticed when I sat the thing down, like I tried to put it on one of the stands, it just wanted to tilt backwards. And I think it's because I probably had the battery on the wrong side. The second battery. I put it on this side and I have a feeling it's supposed to go on this side to balance it out. So take the cover off one more time. One redeeming feature here is with the Monster, you can at least take the side plates off without removing the pedals again. So that's the only positive I see out of this stupid thing I just did. Oh shit. Well, it's even more stupid as I took it off the wrong side. God damn, are you kidding me? Delete. Unbelievable. Well, it is actually believable, but this is what happens when you get old. Alright, so just keep in mind on the system board side, the battery's over here. It's on the back half of the monster. So when I open up the other side, I expect that I have the battery and the back half as well, which is why it felt so unbalanced. And if that is not the case, then let's not even think about that scenario. Alright, so as you can see, this is the front of the wheel, this is the back. I did indeed put the battery pack in the wrong spot. And this is where, like, if this was a 2400 watt monster, you would have one of these in both sides, but yeah, we need to move it over here. Okay, with it over here, it should balance much, much better. Much better. Alright, so let me just quick zip these screws back in again, and then I'm ready to take it outside and test it. Alright, let's see how this feels now. It should feel better. Yeah. That feels like I remember. Much better balance. Alright, let's go ride it. Alright, I apologize for the weird angle. The battery on this camera died, so I have it plugged in, so it has to awkwardly sit where it is right now. So, yeah, just went out for the test drive. I was a little nervous at first because it felt, I could feel like a little bit of a hump as I was riding. But then I realized what it actually was just I had the tire too inflated. Let a few PSI out and it felt like it used to. It felt exactly the same. Rode fine, no hump. Felt really good. So yeah, this project was ultimately a success after several failures and several dumb moves by me, which is nothing abnormal. But my monster is ready to roll again. So hopefully you don't have to ever go through something like this if your monster gets a flat. Well, hopefully your monster doesn't get flat, but if it does, hopefully you found this helpful. So that's all I have for you for now. If you found this video interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please give it a big thumbs up. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please consider subscribing. Feel free to leave your comments, suggestions, and ideas below. Tell me how bad I am at changing tires. And yeah, that's it. Weekend's coming up. Should get some Ranger X1 time and lots of other fun stuff to come. So, till next time, Gotway out. Thank God I can clean up this room now. It's such a freaking mess. Thank goodness.